when a lady arrives in the morning, if she was wealthy or of means, she had house servants, she might put on a garment called a wrapper. It had no buttons or fasteners. It simply wrapped. It was usually of a quilted fabric, and it wrapped, and they tied with a belt or a cord. And that would only be to make sure that the household is doing what they're supposed to be doing. Then she would go upstairs or go to her dressing room, and she would begin to dress for the day. Now, the examples I brought of the undergarments are pretty much basic for those who had money and those who didn't have money. Only their outer garments would have made the difference and denoted the social change. So the first thing that she would do is to put on cotton stockings. Now these came in 3 colors: black, brown, or beige, or white. I couldn't find my black ones. I don't know where they are, but anyway, I just brought the white ones. And they just go up above your knee, and yes, there was elastic in those days in the form of a garter, but that's about the only place you found it. So the stocking goes on up above your knee, you put your foot through this, and you roll it down. Some ladies like their stockings above their knees, others like it below the knee. It was strictly up to you where you position your stocking. And I did find my original shoes. So shoes would be the next thing. And that's important. I had to remind myself this morning when I was getting dressed. You put your boots on before you put your corset on. Because if you don't, you can't get on with your boots on. These are an original pair of boots. And they had buttons up the side. I meant to bring my shoe button hook, because there's a little gizmo that you hold that will fasten those loops around the button to fasten up your shoes.
Those would be stylish today. Very much so. Beautiful.
They're kind of like a suede leather. A really good friend of mine found these that her and her husband bought a really old home, and some of these things were up in the trunk, and she brought me this pair of boots and another pair that's from the turn of the century. But when I looked and did my research, these are from the late 1800s, or not late 1800s, but late 1860s. So these are original boots. I don't know if I could warn you too much. It's just I put this stuff on. All right, after that, the next article of clothing would be pantalette. Now, a lot of people say, well, ladies didn't wear slacks back then. No, they didn't. These are kind of like slacks. Oh, I brought the wrong pair. These are not correctly made. The correctly made pantalettes do not have a crotch. Dusty, did I upset you? Oh, and we need to put you on the back. I thought it was the pantalette. Anyway, and they don't have a seat in them because there's another article of clothing that's going to go on, and you'll understand why they don't have any seat. Okay, so pantalette, and next is a chemise. Kind of looks like a gown, doesn't it? Yeah. And in the summertime, they're really comfortable to sleep in because for the most part, they're made out of cotton. And cotton breathes. And when it's hot and humid, you sure don't want nothing artificial stuff in it. So this would go on because the next item of clothing, you really need this against your body so that the stains don't bother you. Oh, some chemises did have pockets in them too, so you could hide stuff. Nobody could get it. I shouldn't be doing it. Dress in. What do you keep it swimming now? Sugar chest, so all right, ladies, here we go. This is a corset. I'm laced up in my old standby because I like it better. It has hooks and eyes in the front, and this one's got this stupid fuss, which I can never get it to cooperate. It's a pain in the derriere. Anyway, it laces up the back, so you will draw the laces out so you can get around. You fasten the center up in the bust, and then somebody stands behind you and pulls these laces if you're lucky enough to have someone help dress you. How many have seen the movie Gone with the Wind? And And there stands Miss Scarlet hanging on that bedpost, and Mammy says, hold tight and suck in. Miss Scarlet was getting pulled tight in her corset. The brassiere didn't come into play until about 1916. So from ancient Egyptian times until that, I'm going to say even 1920, because not everybody could go out and afford these things. These corsets were worn for a long time. And there's different styles and shapes of corsets. You really wanted to find a dressmaker in town that could fit you properly. If you picked out a French design or this basic design of corset, whichever was going to fit your body style better, if you were short-waisted or long-waisted. These things need to be, you just can't go off the rack and buy them. They don't fit.
Right.
You need to be measured properly for this thing to work properly. Now, the way this one is laced, I can pull myself into it. It's laced from the bottom to the center and then the top to the center. All I have to do is sort out the laces. When I figure out what the bottom ones are, I can pull to the front, wiggle a little bit, pull again, and then grab the top laces and pull that. So you can get into them yourself. I didn't have to know this morning, did I? You train your children to learn to do this. So when you're in camp, they can get you laced up. My youngest son said he knew way too much about 19th century underwear. Okay. So now we're corseted, and the next item of clothing to go over that would be a corset cover. This one is unoriginal. It's made out of silk. The corset cover was worn because it was considered vulgar for your metal stays to show through your outer clothing. That's why a lot of the dresses and our T-bodices are lined, so that the metal stays don't show. The silk one is nice in the summertime. I also have another style for fall and winter, and this one's made out of outing cloth. Do you know what outing cloth is? Flannel. That's all in the world is. Yeah, outing cloth. So that's what this one is, and it's, yeah, it's warm in the winter. Okay, now we've got all that stuff on. Now we need our modesty petticoat, because God forbid we have to lift our skirt to get into the carriage or ascend or descend steps. You sure don't want anyone to be able to see your pant leg. So that's why you wear a modesty petticoat. And it's not very full, just enough to allow your legs room to move and to, you have to lift your skirt up. So now we've got all of that on. Now, it is a myth that hoops were worn every day. They were not. Hoops get in the way, especially if you've got a fireplace. Even if you're not cooking, if you're just standing, campfire. They're a hazard. They stick out. They get in the way. So hoops were primarily worn for special occasions. If you were to receive a gift, if you were going shopping, if you were going to a social gathering, if you were going to church, you can achieve the same hourglass shape by putting on several layers of petticoats under your skirt without donning this cage. And there were different types of cage prints. The ones we're wearing right now are modern. The steel is covered with plastic, so we can slide it inside the casing and it works really well. And like I'll show you, I cheat. My hoop is flounced, so I don't have to wear layers and layers of petticoats. Over petticoats, though, would have been worn over top of this caged crinoline, they call them. They were big. Gathered at the waist, this one is a complete circle, so it doesn't have any gathers. It's just got two big panels. But this was to keep your metal stays from your caged crinoline from showing through the fabric. That was considered vulgar as well. No stays showing anywhere. This was a status symbol. Everybody usually had at least one. The more money your family had, the more over petticoats you had. And it was not uncommon for a lady of means to have at least 6 over petticoats on over the top of her feet. A lot of over petticoats were used as bandages during the war. If the soldiers were fighting on your land, if they were close by and there was no medical wagon, there was no nothing, a lot of over petticoats were ripped up and used for bandages. They were handy, they were easy to come by, and that's why you don't see a lot of over petticoats in museums now, because so many, especially in the South, were used for bandages. I managed to save this. Okay, now we've got all of that stuff on. Now we're going to talk about putting our dresses on, because we've got all of our underpinnings on. The dress I have on right now is a one-piece dress. I can take this hoop out and make it very plain and simple and use it as a work dress. Or I could add a fichu, I could add a shawl, I could add another brooch that's a fancier design, a fancier belt, a stomacher, a Swiss body. I can dress this dress up and make it versatile. That was the whole idea with their clothing. Whether you had money or you didn't have money, even those with money tried to make their dresses as versatile as possible, because you just couldn't go down to the store and grab a dress off the rack. Usually you had a dressmaker. This dress on the dress form is one of my prized possessions. It is made out of silk, and this dress can serve two purposes. Right now, the way I have the dress form attired, this would serve for a day dress or a tea or social function, because it is a little fancier. But you notice the sleeves on this bodice are short. Well, it was considered improper for your forearms to show in the daytime. They needed to be covered in some fashion. And that's where these little gadgets came into play. They're called undersleeves. They just come to above your elbow, and they tie with a ribbon and then fasten at the wrist by some means. And that's to keep your forearm covered, not only from the sun, but to keep your skin from getting soiled from someone else. So, the way she's dressed right now, daytime, you're good to go. Now, let's say that I have been, and my family has been invited to Farmington for a barbecue, which means an all-day affair. You would arrive in the morning to a light refreshment of beaten biscuit or some sort of sweets with coffee and or tea and juices or fresh fruit if it was available. And you would stay in this attire for the most part of the day. Mid-afternoon, you took a nap, because you're going to be there all day and there's dance coming on that night. And we need to be a little fancier for the dance. So, with that in mind, instead of traveling with trunks like the O'Hara girls did, we're going to take the hat off. We'll talk about that in a minute. All I have to do is take this bodice off. Keep my skirt, keep a nap and underpinnings, put my skirt back on, and put on this ball gown bodice, and ta-da! I'm ready for the dance. Sleeves are shorter because the sun has gone down. The neckline is shorter because the sun has gone down. That was the rule of thumb. The higher the sun, the higher the neckline. The lower the sun, the lower the neckline. All I need to do now is do something fancy with my hair, pin it up with ribbons or whatever, and I'm ready to go. So, one skirt, two outfits. And that's what they try to do with most of their clothing. Now, being outside in the sun, we need two things, don't we, ladies? We need a hat. What do we need a hat for? To keep the sun off of our face and neck. Brown skin denotes working class people, unlike today. Kind of reversed, isn't it? You have money, you go to the beach. You ain't got no money, you stay home and work. So, that's what the hats were for. Now, the hat was always worn forward. Now, this one is an exception, because it has a short brim. I have another accessory for that. But if you have a wide brim hat, its sole purpose is to shield your face and neck from the sun, right? So you wear it forward And hats could be decorated in just about any way you wanted to. It was up to you. But if you had a hat on with a short brim, this is another one of my cherished possessions. I don't know nobody did this. This was given to me from a lady that I really didn't even know. And you were right, my dear. You said parasol. The school kids like to call it a parasail, but that's not right. This is an original carriage parasol. Did you notice that the handle all of a sudden got longer? It collapses so that you can carry it easy. This one is made out of silk. It's quite fancy. Yep, absolutely. But that's all the size that it is. Because all it has to do is shield your neck and face from the sun. I want you to look at the stitching on the silk. Also, look on the underneath side. It's covered. You cannot see the ribs. Is that not fabulous? And yes, and it's becoming, the silk is tearing. So I'm not going to do anything to it until it's in tatters. But I try not to carry it around too much. Just use it for demonstration purposes because it is kind of fragile. Isn't that gorgeous? And she just gave this stuff to me. I shook for 5 minutes. I believe you. My husband came in and he said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "Oh my God, look what was in this bag." And he said, "It's like an umbrella to me." If it wasn't so fragile, I'd be in death. Yeah, but when I explained to him what this was, and then he said, "That's cool." And of course, he had to look at it and see how it was put together, but you've got that little, there's those little tiny pins that hold that metal piece that hinges it, and then that slides down and locks it in place. She gave me this one, another one that's a little bit larger than this one, and another parasol that has, the handle is made from a blackberry briar root. It's real unusual. It was in tatters. I did have it recovered, and I'm going to pick that up next week in the Wildcat. But now this one, this is my prize. And I was so grateful. And I cannot find her number, but she had it in the bag. She said, "This is for you." Okay, also, if you're not going to be outside, and you're going to be inside working needlepoint or reading or whatever, just relaxing, whatever. Older ladies, we should have our hair covered to keep the dust out of it because we did not shampoo our head every day. It got shampooed usually once a week. This is called a day cap, and it's real simple. I'm going to use you for a moment. It just fits over like this. And of course your hair would be pulled back. But this will help to keep the dust and cobwebs and whatever else. It's not good for the sun. It's not going to help with that. But it will help to keep your hair and your scalp just a little bit clean. I hope your hairdresser So a day cap is a necessity. This one is a little bit fancier. This would be more for the lines of a dance or a party or something. If you had your hair up or partially up, then you could cover the part that's up or braided with this and just pin it down. And it's just kind of a little decorative piece to add to your hairdressing. And what if we get warm? No, they didn't have air conditioners. We had to use a fan. Now, this is sandalwood. It's got designs on it. Some did, some didn't. Sandalwood is primarily from India, and it smells real good. And that's one